with the idea of having a chapter each with a story that goes on, but then we got taken by our own project, and we haven't developed it yet. But we thought of a pseudonym.
Yes.
So
And we always have an idea for a play or script for a movie, because I think that is generally lends itself to collaboration more. I just feel that because writing is so personal, the idea of writing a short story or a novel, it doesn't come naturally. So we'll see how it goes. We're doing so many things, so it's
Okay. And I guess the audience will want to ask you some questions, but before that I have one question for both of you. Who among you both do you think is the luckier one?
I am the lucky one.
That's very nice of you, Carlo.
I got faster.
And you, Tishani?
that's like running to get the check first. That's not fair. No, I think we're equally lucky.
Okay. So we'll leave the floor to the audience then. I guess we'll have questions for you. Please feel free to ask questions. I guess they're also so mesmerized by both of you.
There's one.
Okay, thank you. I am Raju Paudel. I am a student of literature at Tribhuvan University. And my question is for Tishani. And after that, I will ask to Carlo also. Comparing to that society and this society, as a writer, what do you find similarities and differences between Mary Shelley herself and her writings with you and your writings? Because Mary was supported by P.B. Shelley and you are supported by Carlo.
That's a very nice question. He said Mary Shelley was supported by P.B. Shelley and you are supported by Carlo. And what difference do you find in the societies?
Which societies?
The
Sorry.
society that they lived in, the age that they lived in, and this one.
I think obviously different for women, even though she had her amount of freedom and in her time. But I think, now we live in a much more equal sort of world, not quite completely, but it's getting there and aiming in that direction. And I think, it's interesting that that particular couple that you chose have very distinct identities, Shelley, Percy Shelley, the poet, and then Mary Shelley was like completely different. But they're the romantics, so maybe you can speak about that more, Carlo. Oh, he asked us about how I think of myself with Mary Shelley and Shelley. The couple.
The romantics you want me to talk about? No. Well, actually, it's a precise question that you're asking in that sense, now that I've understood it, because on top of having a backache, I also have hearing problems. But I've been researching a little bit romanticism and that the two characters you just mentioned, right, the two authors. And I think it's time maybe that comes back a little bit, because after a moment in which reason has taken the center in society, now maybe, this is what happened with romanticism. They came after the French Revolution, as you know, and especially after terror. So reason showed its ugly head, and so they started saying maybe there is something wrong with it. Maybe we should start following our feelings, and definitely Tishani with her poetry does that, certainly. And I have not been able to avoid that in my writing either. So I don't say that we are neo-romantics, because that musical wave that happened in the early '80s. But I definitely we are not governed just by reason. So that similarity can be that we definitely follow our intuition and our inspiration more than other contemporaries might want to do.
Okay, my question is to you, Carlo. What do you find similarities and differences between the Italy of Petrarch's period and your period? What do you find similarities and differences of representing nature in Orso's writing and your writings?
Between Petrarch's Italy and
your Italy.
I find more similarities, since you are familiar with Italian literature, with Boccaccio, which you probably know, right? The author of the Decameron. So I think that the Decameron was a famous novel today we would call it a novel, let's say, to make it simple, which Boccaccio wrote to describe the hidden erotic side of Italy, right? So it was a very erotic novel, but actually it was a commentary on the contemporary society. And as you know, in Italy, we've just gone through our Decameron with Silvio Berlusconi. So we've just had in the news for years all the details of his sex life, the most gynecological ones that we would not want to know about. And so I'm sorry not to be able to make a comparison with Petrarch, because I have to make it with the Decameron. So I could end by saying that I hope that the Decameron is finished and there will be a new age for Petrarch now. So that's the only similarity I would see now. It's in my hopes rather than in what Italy is right now, because right now it's trying to get over that drunkenness of the Berlusconi years. I assume everybody knows who Berlusconi is, but maybe you don't. Good for you if you don't.
No, we do. We look after his exploits every day in the newspaper.
Hello. Hello. My name is Seva, and my question is to both of you. How do you handle criticism, and which of you gets more angry at, negative comments?
Criticism.
Do you have some criticism? Yeah, you can see right away how it works. I can tell you how you handle criticism.
Yeah.
Tishani handles criticism like an ostrich, more or less, by digging her head very deeply into the sand and not wanting to see. She actually has a friend of hers that will look at Google and let her know what's there and just tell her the good things. So
Is that true, Tishani?
I think that I think Tishani has had more exposure, so she's had to face with a lot more. I've been lucky in Italy. It's a much smaller market than what Tishani has been exposed to, and I have a lot of cousins in Italy, so they've all say nice things about me. So far, no one has dared to criticize me. So I don't know how to. But how I react exactly the same way that Tishani does, actually, because someone came to me after my novel came out and told me that he met somebody, an aspiring writer, who probably hated my novel, and he talked to him for an hour out of envious hate, and I just told him that I was not interested in knowing what he had to say. So
Yeah, look, I think receiving criticism is part of the job of the writer, and it never gets easier. I think I've met a lot of writers. I ask them about their process, and I'm always kind of interested to understand that they never forget anything. Even if they have reached like Nobel Prize and got every kind of thing, they'll still remember 1963, somebody wrote a bad line in one review, and that's it. They just, they won't forget it. And my own sort of way of being has been to sort of just try to keep the noise of the outside as low as possible, because really there's a lot of opinions, there's a lot of everybody has their opinion and they are entitled to it, but when you are writing, you are trying to create your own audience. So the book that I write will not be the book for everybody, so it's like you have to create your own audience, and the ones that it doesn't work for, they will find their other writer. And it's just that whole dance that we do, but part of that means that you have to be able to hear and understand if there is something in the criticism that is useful, or if it's just in which case you just have to close it out and move on. So I think you have to develop a very thick skin, for sure. But I think it's also, one of the advice, this writer Donna Tartt, I heard her at a festival once say that I read a review once, whether it's a good review or bad review. I read it once and then I never look at it again. And I thought that was a very good, if you can do that, It's good because if you're going to be like that about the negative, then you have to be like that about the positive, because basically both are an opinion. So you can't take it too much to heart whether it's good or bad. You just let it wash. So that's been my approach. It's not 100% successful always, but by and large, I think it's working. Yeah.
Carlo had something to add to that.
I just wanted to finishing on the topic of criticism. It's very different from country to country. In Italy, there is a very deep intellectual literary criticism, but people are very afraid at attacking each other because everybody's connected in a way. So you will have your payback quite soon. In India, it seems there is the reproachful literary critics, the most diffused kind of critic. I mean, there's someone who says what you should have been writing about, for example. I noticed reading Indian literary criticism. So it varies from country to country a lot. So the reaction varies according to which country the criticism is coming from.
But Carlo seems to be much calmer in this matter than Tishani. You seem to be much more calm, yeah, in this.
About criticism?
About criticism, yes.
No, like I said, I have not. Yeah. Be aware of people that look calm can explode in uncontrollable rages. So don't criticize me. No, I think that I just have not had any vicious attacks yet, so I can't give a good answer. So I've had very rewarding feedback from readers and from critics. So far it's been good.
Tishani, I remember reading something about Cricinfo. You got a lot of criticism at that time. Like people said that you were a bit flippant about cricket and that someone more knowledgeable about it should be writing, while others were very supportive and they said that no, this is a lighter approach and this is fine as well. So how did you deal with that?
Well, it was very interesting because I was kind of arm twisted into writing that. I'm not a cricket expert at all. In fact, I don't even watch cricket now because I watched too much of it when I was doing that column. I had to watch, 6 weeks of cricket every day writing a blog. So when you have to write, what is it, 30, 40 blogs every morning, you have to give a new thing. It becomes difficult to think of something to say. But it was very interesting. I got a lot out of that because I realized that the world of people who read about cricket is much larger than the world of poetry. And so when people I would meet, they say, oh yeah, you're the cricket writer. I'm like, no, I'm not a cricket writer. I'm a poet. But I wrote this blog specifically because Sambit Bal, who was the editor of Cricinfo, said, I don't want you to write a game report, match report. I want a different thing. So he kind of conned me into doing it. And I said yes. And I'll never do it again because I don't like the blog as a form and I don't like to watch cricket anymore. And I think cricket is completely corrupted as a game, especially in India. So that aside, I would say that having had the experience of writing about something that's so mainstream and informs our culture, as a poet who's so outside the margin of mainstream. Like, you can be a poet standing at the corner talking, no one is listening to you. How do you get them to listen? You come into the center where they're talking about Bollywood, cricket, and then you can throw in whatever. So that was my approach, and I think it has its advantages. Yeah, pros and cons. But also, as a writer, you say yes to certain things. Some things work, other things don't. So it's fine. I think it's all an adventure.
But you wouldn't do something like that again?
No, I was briefly working with Muttaya Muralidharan on his biography, yeah, which was really an interesting project because he is an interesting character. So for me, it was not about the cricket, not about his angle in his arm and his skill as a bowler or nothing about that, but it was about him as a person. And him as a person, he has a great amount of humor. He's very political. He enters a room and he just makes things happen. I went to Sri Lanka after the tsunami. I saw what those cricketers did, and I was very impressed actually. I said, for a small country like Sri Lanka, where cricket has become such a big deal, these guys take their role very seriously and in a very nice way, unlike what I had seen in India, which was this
godlike status, you know. It's just like removed from the ordinary person. And I thought in Sri Lanka they had a much nicer way of watching cricket. They have fun. They go to the match, they dance, they sing. It's a game. After all, it's a game. It's not, you know. But now it's become about money. And so I think, and politics and Pakistan and India, all of it's too much after a point. And I just think, look, it's a game, and if you can enjoy it as well, then that says something for you as a country. And I thought that, so that was one experience with my cricket sort of side.
And are you done with that now?
Yeah.
Do you watch cricket, Carla? Because you're smiling. Do you watch cricket?
No, I don't understand anything about cricket. We can talk about football, soccer if you want, and I do know a little bit about that, but no, I don't. I just learned to play a few months ago.
Can you, is it working?
Can you speak up?
Has the way you identify yourself as writers, has it changed because of your relationship with each other? So like, if you see yourself as an Indian writer or an Italian, how do you see yourself? And, you know, has it changed in any way because of your relationship? Do you feel like your, you know, reach, your kind of affinities have changed in any way? That's my first question. And the second one is, among contemporary writers that you like reading, who do you feel most of an affinity with? You know, where do you kind of see your voice aligning with other writers of writing today, fiction writers or creative writers?
Well, I like your first part of your question in the sense that I've thought about that definitely, and I think it's more. It has more to do rather than how I identify as a writer per se. How being a writer has been easier. Because the moments, as I think Tishani said it earlier, but I confirm it, the moments of loneliness and of wondering if what you're thinking and what you're expressing has any chance of being understood and being received the way that you would like it to be received. So if you have someone who belongs to the same craft, of course, the person who loves you may be very biased, that's obvious, but aside from that, I'll take the chance and I'll get the support. So I think that it has strengthened me personally in my resolve to continue with my craft. I've always been quite determined and motivated and disciplined rather most of the time in writing, but I've become much more, and we encourage each other in that discipline and determination. So in that sense, it has helped technically the craft by, you know, knowing that you have to show up because on the other side of the hall there's someone who's also showing up. So it's actually quite a virtuous cycle. So in that sense. So as far as the external world is concerned, honestly, I cannot judge personally for me. So
yeah, I think I agree with that sense of solidarity, you know, which is really important as a writer, because you may, like, I live in India, but it's not that I feel like I'm part of any great canon or part of any community. I would have to live in Delhi to feel part of the Indian literary scene, as it were, which I go to Delhi once every 2 years. So, you know, I'm very removed from it. I'm not on Facebook. I don't tweet. I'm off social, like, I'm off the map, you know. So for me, in a way, I feel like